Sponsored by Squarespace. Hiding in the Amigata mountain is a peculiar cliff face, on which countless human-shaped holes are found. Incoming tourists soon discover that each hole is shaped in their exact figure.
This is my hole. It was made for me.
Drawn by an irresistible impulse, one by one the tourists crawl into their respective holes. And the wall devoured them. Yet the impulse never ceased. And the whole time, all I can think of is this. That was the enigma of Amigata Fault, a story written and illustrated by manga artist Junji Ito. In the West, Junji Ito is often labeled as a master of cosmic horror, but it's more accurate to label his style as contemporary kaidan, Japanese urban legends. Popular stories like Ghost Taxi Passengers, Hanako of the Toilet, and The Slit-Mouth Woman all fall within this category, as does the show Tales of the Unusual and the 1964 movie Kwaidan. Stories in this genre feature inexplicable, often absurd occurrences in a mundane environment. Slit-Mouth Woman, for example, is about the titular woman asking you if she is beautiful. If you answer yes, she'll mutilate your face until you look just like her. It is both scary and far-fetched, grounded by its urban setting. This focus on the unusual horror in a day-to-day setting gives us a glimpse into how Junji Ito writes his stories. There have been numerous attempts at adapting Ito's work to film and TV, none of which are particularly successful until now. After numerous delays, the Uzumaki anime is finally out, and it looks absolutely stunning. This seems like the perfect time to introduce Junji Ito to a broader audience. So let's talk about Junji Ito and see if we can find any common themes in his works and explore the potential meanings. From here on, horror visuals are no longer off limits. Viewers' discretion is advised. Welcome to the world of Junji Ito and the horror of oddly satisfying things. A common source of Junji Ito's horror comes from small human impulses. Tomie, one of Ito's most popular stories, talks about a woman with supernatural beauty. Frequently, men become enamored with her attention until they fall into a pit of inexplicable rage. Tomie is often killed by these men, but would then come back as if nothing had happened. Layers of Fear tells the story of a girl who grows like a tree, one layer at a time. Her mother, obsessed with keeping her daughter young, decides to peel out her outer layers to find her baby girl hidden within. In these two stories, as well as in Amigata Fault, the horror came from an exaggeration of human impulses. It's that satisfaction of peeling things one layer at a time until we lose patience and tear the whole thing up. It's the gratification of a perfect fit, an intimate, suffocating embrace from the world. And in the case of Tomie, it's the horror of cute aggression. Cute aggression is a psychological phenomenon of humans wanting to squeeze and bite things that they feel affectionate towards. Junji Ito took this subtle impulse and exaggerated it, matching supernatural beauty with uncontrollable acts of violence. It doesn't make sense, but it feels right. It's horror beyond logic. Many, though not all, of Junji Ito's stories are about amplifying these urges. The illogical fear of a tunnel without an end, the anxiety of being spied on by your neighbor, the disgusting pleasure of popping a pimple. Ito is unreasonably good at picking up those subtle emotions and fleeting thoughts. This brings us to the second point, the incongruity. these impulses are often self-conflicting. With Tomie, adoration and aggression are one of the same. Its positive and negative emotions manifested as one. But it is also about her being both alive and dead, as she shows up at school a day after her classmates killed her. The contradiction can also be simple, like sleep being short but dreams feeling long. That's the premise of Long Dream, a story of a man whose nightly dreams last years in his mind. Every time he finishes one of his dreams, his sense of reality is profoundly altered. House of the Marionettes centers around the ambiguity between the puppet and the puppeteer. The puppeteer is directing the motion, but the puppet is what interacts with others. Which one is the true self? The scariest thing about all of this is how primal these emotions are. The incongruity is unresolvable. There is no resolution to the enigma. And those impulses are intrusive and compulsive. That pestering urge comes from a part that is not you, and constantly tells you,
This hole, it belongs to you.
And the voice can only be silenced through obedience. Are there any horror artists in the audience? If you are one, first, leave a comment and let us know. Don't leave a link though, YouTube blocks that. Second, have you used Squarespace? I'm asking because every artist needs a website, especially in this age of webcomics and online photos. Speaking as a fan, it's so much nicer to have easy access to an artist's past works instead of having to scroll through their Twitter page. Not to mention, when I'm on a personal website, I'm supporting the artist directly instead of dealing with the nonsense of social media. Some socials don't even let me browse without an account, and sometimes Twitter gets banned by an entire country. A personal website is more stable and accessible. With Squarespace, you can get started quickly using a professional template, or be detail-oriented and start from scratch. The process is intuitive, and there are tons of useful resources to help you too. Everything you upload belongs to you. As an artist, that is invaluable. A free trial requires no credit card information. You can start right away at squarespace.com/accentercinema. Use the code accentercinema and you can get 10% off your first purchase. Whether you are an artist, a business owner, or anyone with something to show it with a website that belongs to you. Visit squarespace.com/accentercinema and get started today. Human impulses may be the source of horror, but that is not a theme. In fact, what are Junji Ito's stories about? What is the message? What is the moral? Fans have been debating this before I was born, and with such a vast library, attempting to find a single unified thread is a fool's errand. But that doesn't mean there aren't common topics. Back to Amigata Fault, hidden in its overwhelming dread, there is a small detail. Before she succumbed to her impulse, a woman confesses to the protagonist of her loneliness. Her social isolation is the reason she's drawn to the hole. There are multiple ways to interpret this. Perhaps she sees the hole as a sweet embrace, or maybe she's drawn to the community aspect, as everyone is also climbing into their holes. In other words, the story is about the irresistible urge to conform, even if it means warping yourself in the process. This theme of loneliness and the desire for human connection is very common in Ito's work. In Army of One, we see a series of murders in which victims are stitched together. The event causes people to avoid seeing each other, and the story is told by a socially isolated protagonist. In The Bully, a girl once bullied a young boy simply because the boy was too attached to her. However, after the two grow up, the girl, now a woman, wants to marry him. In Ito's stories, loneliness and companionship both can lead to horror. Another common theme is social pressure and beauty standards. That's the theme of Layers of Fear. Facing her aging self, the mother does anything she can to live vicariously through her beautiful daughter. In hallucinations, the protagonist kills his best friend simply because the victim has grown taller than him. In Face Thief, a shape-shifting girl steals the identity of others to beautify herself. Upon finding that out, her classmates all come to school wearing creepy masks. The collective pressure drives the girl over the edge, and she turns into an amalgamation of monsters. Obviously, both themes are common social ills of Japanese society. It's not hard to see why they would make their way into Junji Ito's stories. Through this, however, we can see how Ito views these issues. In these stories, malcontent seems to be the primary source of suffering. It's not that being alone is harmful. The protagonist of Army of One is lonely but remains somewhat functional. Rather, it is the fear of being alone, old, or ugly. The aversion to negative emotions is depicted as the fundamental fuel for desire. With desire comes obsession, which leads to their downfall. It's a reading that sounds rather Buddhist. This finally brings us to Uzumaki, Junji Ito's magnum opus. Uzumaki is a series of stories about a small town haunted by the spiral shape. From people to vegetation to the weather, everything is turning into a spiral. It's a story best experienced on your own. So for this part, I'll assume you have seen the series. Like his other works, people have been trying to decipher its deeper meanings. I must confess, I'm one of those buttheads who thinks Ito's stories weren't written with specific meanings and morals in mind. I think he just finds interesting ideas and runs with them, with no regard for themes. But that doesn't mean we can't derive something from it. With Uzumaki, Ito once again derives horror from the subtle contradictory human impulses. The spiral is a common pattern in nature, yet it never feels quite natural. It's too neat, too perfect. The incongruity is hypnotic. Ito then links this to his common theme of desire, and thus people become obsessed, almost hypnotized by the shape. From there, Ito explores some of his usual themes. A beautiful woman gets rejected. She becomes ill-content with her appearance. A scar on her forehead grows and consumes her whole. A girl's hair becomes curly and beautiful. Her classmates grow jealous of her style. However, her hair continues to grow rapidly, draining her life in the process. Malcontent, desire, obsession, consumed is the same familiar formula. But there is one very different moment. The ending. After all is lost, our two protagonists descend into the source of the curse, a city of spiral. Injured and unable to walk, the boy urges the girl to escape. But with nothing else to escape to, the girl stays with him.
I can't go on either. I'm staying with you.
Facing death, they give each other one final embrace. And despite the deformed body, the manga focuses on their very human faces. It is drawn as a beautiful moment. Love is yet another common theme in the world of Junji Ito. It is another form of obsession, but unlike other desires, love is frequently a road to salvation. Should the girl stay with the boy who loved him, they would have survived the Amigata fault. Rejection of love is then the ultimate punishment. In Long Dream, the protagonist wakes up from a dream in which he was in love for 1,000 years. The rude awakening leads him to his final sleep. And in Uzumaki, after all of the sufferings, the main characters find salvation not in life, but in their contentment with what they have. They have each other. As mentioned, I don't think Junji Ito's stories are about anything specific. The Hanging Balloons is one of those stories that I can't deduce any meanings from. Whatever moral lessons we find in his works, I think, are merely reflections of his and our beliefs. Ito's stories are like mirrors, showing us whatever meaning we projected onto it. For this reason, I choose mostly popular stories. I'm not just interested in his works, but also in his readers. I want to know why his stories resonate with us. A decade of social media has turned our appearance into a commodity and our relationship into a game. It simultaneously amplified social pressure, yet made us more lonely than ever. Many of us discovered Junji Ito via the internet. We started reading his manga often at a moment of social isolation. It's not hard to see why we connected with his horror. Luckily, within this Pandora's box of despair, Ito left us a ray of hope. Frequently ignored by us and by his characters, love, according to Ito, is the solution. Should we be content with it, all the world's horror would become bearable. It's a comforting, optimistic message in his cold and uncaring cosmos.